Why does Avshalom start his rebellion in Hebron? It could be because, being as he was born and started out his life there, he may still have had some connections in the area. There is more to it than that, however. The capital moved from Hebron to Yerushalayim, from the Nachlav Yehuda, specifically to Yerushalayim, which had not been claimed until then from the Yebusim. So this means that Hebron loses power, and others besides the people of Yehuda must now be appeased as well. At this point, David was careful to not show too much favoritism to his own Shevet. There's always that struggle of who to give the honor to. Those closest to you, whose support you want to try to hold on to and encourage, or those farthest from you, you'd like to try to bring closer. A similar idea is discussed by Chazal regarding Achashverosh. There were likely people of influence in Hebron who were not happy with David for this move and not receiving enough power. These were exactly the kind of people that Avshalom would want to connect with. And so David crosses the Kidron riverbed. The Kidron lies between Ir David, the area that had been settled as Yerushalayim in the times of David HaMelech, and the Mount of Olives. This will come up again later as a type of border of ancient Yerushalayim. As he crosses this riverbed, he's in essence crossing from power to exile, from a sense of security to danger. He then makes his way up Maleh HaZitim, or the incline of the Mount of Olives, weeping and mourning, as he makes his way up towards the border of the desert. David here is in essence crossing a point he may have crossed in the past as he ran from Shaul, except this time, instead of escaping from Nachla Binyamin via the Mount of Olives, as he seeks safety in Yehuda, now he heads up the Mount of Olives towards the border of Binyamin as he makes his way to the desert and beyond. Does this bring back the memories and feelings of the fear of being hunted? Is he embarrassed? This time it's not his father-in-law, but his own son. Despite the above feelings, might he have found comfort in crossing these same paths with the hope that Hashem will be with him now as he was last time? Hashem saved him then, and if it's his divine will, he'll save him again. The psukim here give one depiction, but connecting the emotions described here with a quick look at Tehillim Perek Gimel can provide us with a broader range of sentiments that may have overcome David at this time. Did he pass not far from Nov, or see its location not far off as he made his way to the top of the Mount of Olives? Did this impact his decision at all when his closest friends and advisors, and even the Aron HaBrit, came to join him, and maybe even direct his response? Here is perhaps one of the highlights and peaks of David's career, uniting the nation Yerushalayim and bringing in the Aron HaBrit as he begins to set the foundations for the building of the Beis HaMikdash. On the one hand, David only moved the capital to Yerushalayim when accepted by the entire nation. And now, that isn't the case. So he rises and leaves Yerushalayim. The city meant to unite us as one. But he's still not willing to give up on the spiritual goals based on that unity. He leaves the Aron, perhaps in hopes that maybe he can continue to build that spiritual base. And if not, at least maybe it'll continue without him. As we've said, each man has his Navo. And maybe his own Mount Navo, his own potential contribution, was brought down a peg from what it could have been. Again, he runs, but most of the nation still backed him. He isn't just running from an enemy. He's again trying to run from a civil war. This is the greatest modesty and recognition that the will of Hashem and the destiny of the nation of Israel is so far beyond that of any one single individual, even our greatest leaders. Lahavdil, it reminds me in a sense of Menachem Begin and Ben Gurion, who had different views on how to defend the fledgling modern state of Israel. With the nation scraping together any weapons and ammunition they could at all costs, and in the midst of a war with the few soldiers they had still falling in the fields, Ben Gurion gave the order to stop a ship of soldiers and arms acquired by Begin's defense unit called the Irgun. It's worth looking into the entire story, but for our purposes, we'll keep it short and say that the ship of arms was blown up under Ben Gurion's orders. On the one hand, Ben Gurion knew that there had to be only one armed force for the new country. On the other, how many in Begin's place would have taken this challenge personally and, under the threat of losing their own position, retaliated harshly? Such a response to the dramatic incident could potentially break down into a civil war that would have been the end of us and left this latest and closest attempt at a Jewish state in the land of our fathers as a footnote in history and no more. Begin didn't allow his own pride and his own opinions for what was best for the nation to take charge. Any united attempt at a Jewish state was better than a divided one. He recognized that unity was the single most important thing, and he took a step back. Remember, the only nevuas that were written are the ones we're meant to learn from for all generations, each time with its own challenges. The Tanakh is not a history book and not an atlas, but the geography here can help us to connect again with the different messages we've been carrying and living as a nation throughout our history. Not only that, but it brings them to life. As understanding David's path and comparing it to those from his past can help us to tap into the deep emotion embedded in the parak and help us to experience again the lessons of the Tanakh coming to life.